Now, that's just one big plate that the NFL is spinning as the season approaches. The other big plate relates to the coronavirus pandemic, which, if you're paying any attention whatsoever, is not subsiding. People don't seem to care like they used to. Some never did. 118,000 are now dead. They're projecting 200,000 by later this year, and the numbers are going up in various cities and states throughout the country. Some states and cities that have tried to reopen are having to pull back, and you've got crisis situations in some places. And we've got positive tests of players in the NFL, and they're not even together. They're not even under the roof of their facilities yet. Roger Goodell acknowledged to Greenberg last night that positive COVID-19 tests will happen, and word came out yesterday that several members — now, the report from NFL media was several members of the Texans and the Cowboys tested positive. I'm told it was 2 Cowboys, 2 Texans. So not as dire as maybe it initially seemed. Total of 4 between 2 franchises. One is Ezekiel Elliott, Chris. But look, this is not a surprise. With that many players in the NFL spread out across the country, yeah, guys are going to test positive. It's going to happen. It's not a surprise that 4 players that we know of are positive, and there's probably more out there. I mean, we already know about Von Miller, for example, but there's other players out there, I assume, that have tested positive that we don't know about.
Yeah, well, I would think so. Honestly, I'm shocked we haven't heard more about it, really. I am. And again, it's just surprising that, honestly, Ezekiel Elliott and his camp and everybody else kept it so quiet. I thought we would have heard about it by now. But, I mean, yeah, this is the reality of the situation. I mean, yeah, 4 guys out of 180. Well, what do we think is going to happen when we get together and, everybody starts, practicing against each other, sweating? This is where, again, I just don't know where the NFL and the players stand with this whole agreement yet. I'm a little concerned about it. But, yes, this is a microcosm of what's going on in society. And, of course, yeah, I think Texas is one of those states right now. We're seeing some rising numbers, but it's not going away. It's here to stay for the time being. It doesn't sound like we're getting a vaccine anytime soon. Yes, we're going to have testing, but we're seeing numbers go up. And if you listen to any expert out there, and it's purely the science of it, they're telling you this is not a second wave. We're still dealing with the first wave. So what happens when, that so-called second wave that they predict to be coming happens, and weather starts to get colder up here in the Northeast in late October, early November? I'm just afraid it's going to wipe out full teams, and it's going to wipe out weeks of the season. And I just, I'm very interested to see how this plays out and what kind of agreement the NFLPA can get with the NFL.
Yesterday, we also got a glimpse of the transparency or lack thereof that NFL franchises will be applying to situations where players test positive for the coronavirus. With any other illness or injury, we are accustomed to transparency via the injury reports. Now, this time of year, there's no obligation for the teams to say anything whatsoever about player health, but the statement from the Cowboys gives us an idea of maybe how teams will try to deal with it. Maybe they'll just call it illness and won't elaborate. Maybe they won't go into any details whatsoever. Here's the statement from the Cowboys. Due to federal and local privacy laws, we are unable to provide information regarding the personal health of any of our employees. We are following all CDC, local, and NFL guidelines to keep our facilities safe, including limited employee access. Look, I don't want to get into the whole who does HIPAA apply to and who doesn't it apply to. It was created to restrict what healthcare facilities and healthcare workers can say about someone's health condition. It doesn't apply to the general public. It doesn't technically apply to the Cowboys, and it gets violated if it does apply all the time with the injury reports. So this is just kind of, I think, a way for the Cowboys to turn the page on this for now. And again, there's no obligation to say anything for now. They could just say we have no obligation in the offseason to say anything about the health of any of our players. And they won't even say how many. I mean, without naming names, you would like to think they would say how many. And there is a public health component to all of this. I don't know why people are
right. That's why
about COVID-19. Yes. It's not like you have AIDS or herpes or some other disease that is scandalous or embarrassing
and weird. Right?
Yeah, right. I mean, and again, I just threw out a couple. There are plenty of that people would say, oh, I don't want anyone to know I have that, and that's a personal choice. But this is, we've been hearing all along. It's the flu. It's the flu. It's the flu. It's not. But when it comes to the stigma attached to it, it's the flu. I got sick. An invisible virus made its way into my system as I was out and about. Now, maybe there's some embarrassment that people are putting themselves in positions to catch it because we should know better than to compromise our own health and compromise the health of others by catching it. But there's no stigma in having it.
I think that's the first thing that jumped out to me, Mike, is I was a little surprised by Ezekiel Elliott's reaction. I don't know. Just I would think a lot of players would take the Von Miller approach. I think I would have as well. Like, hey, I have the sickness. Be careful, everybody out there. This is what I'm going through. Hey, for me, it's not that bad. So don't panic if you do get it. You might be able to you might have symptoms like me, but let's protect others out there because their symptoms might be more serious. I was surprised by that. Now, was I surprised that this medical information got out there? Of course not. I mean, come on. The NFL, yes, we always hear, these types of injuries or surgeries or something that happens in the offseason get out when, like you said, the NFL, the teams they don't have to report that. Or especially with drug testing and failed drug tests, that's supposed to be a private matter. That gets out every year with almost every single player. So, again, the NFL is not very good at keeping these type of secrets. I don't know how, this was reported at first, but Ezekiel Elliott's obviously embarrassed or a little upset about it. I don't think he should be. And, yeah, to the bigger problem, Mike, too, I just wish there was a little more transparency with all teams right now to just know how many players do you know that have actually had it already and where are we at as a league and players and everything like that. I hope people aren't being like Ezekiel Elliott, keeping it quiet and keeping it from teams and, not informing us to gain more knowledge about the situation.
And you'll wonder why Zeke is invoking HIPAA. Now, again, HIPAA doesn't apply when it comes to someone finding out about it, his agent confirming it, etc. I can't help but wonder whether or not there's some level of embarrassment because he was at that party. Remember that party?
That's what I thought, too.
It's been a long time ago. He was at that party at Dak Prescott's house, and, hey, if you hadn't been going to a party when everyone was on lockdown, you wouldn't have tested positive for it. So I don't think he wants to be chastised publicly for doing something stupid. That's where I think the silence and the discretion comes into this. There's no stigma in having it. The stigma is in how you got it because you did something dumb to get it, potentially. And when we saw the videos and we spent time on the story of the dinner party that Dak Prescott had at a time when everyone was on full lockdown, that may be the thing that has caused Ezekiel Elliott to be a little bit concerned that it got out. And the other thing, too, and I don't want to cause a problem between Zeke and his agent, Rocky Arsenault. One of Zeke's tweets yesterday was, my agent only confirmed. The story was already written. Reporters have been calling my agent all morning. Zeke, don't you understand that without confirmation from your agent, they weren't going to use it? That if your agent says no comment, that I don't know that for sure they're not going to use it, but the reason they're calling the agent for confirmation is they need that piece before they can be comfortable reporting on something like this that may not be correct. So when the agent confirms it, that's their license to report it. That's a key piece in the thing making it into the public domain. And I don't want to cause trouble between Zeke and Rocky Arsenault, but
I think
Zeke
you
needs
already
to understand that. Why didn't the agent just keep your mouth shut? Somebody calls you up and says, hey, is it true? Is it true he's got corona? No comment. We got no comment. I'm not commenting on the health of and the illness or lack thereof or whatever. I got nothing to say. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all you got to say.
Make the media members call other people to try to get confirmation, not get confirmation from somebody inside your own camp. You're right. I think you're right about that.
And maybe not go with it. Because they can't get confirmation.
Exactly right. It'd be probably hard to get confirmation on a lot of stories this day and age because we're not seeing each other. We're not in office buildings. We don't have the connections we usually do, all those things. And to bring it back full circle too, Mike, I mean, I know that was something, I texted you yesterday when I first heard about the Ezekiel Elliott situation. Oh, I wonder, did Dak get it too? Because that's where I think both of our minds went. We went, well, what about that Dak birthday party they had? So you're probably right in your read of Ezekiel Elliott probably embarrassed in the fact that, man, I got caught going out when people were supposed to be on lockdown, and now I got it and maybe just doesn't want it thrown back in his face. But regardless, Zeke, you had it and you survived it and everything's good. And, I think you could do a public service by kind of informing people out there what it was like to go through it and how you feel and how you felt through it as it was happening. So again, that's what I would like to hear more of that, especially with the NFL players. We need to hear more. We need to have more. What do I want to say, Mike? I don't want to say guinea pigs, but that's what I mean. Just players, athletes this age who have it. What have the symptoms been like? Has anybody had anything serious? I mean, I think that's part of the gathering of the information here as we go forward to see if we can really make this all work and happen.
Yeah, we need to get people to care about this again. It seems like people don't care if they ever did, but more and more people just seem to act like it's over. It isn't over. And
isn't it insane? Isn't it insane? Like, I grew up, people telling me about all these weird wars and everything, and people dying, and how many people died, and how horrible it is. And here we are, over 100,000 deaths. And you're right. It's like it's become second fiddle. It's become third fiddle. It's like we've just totally forgot about it as a society. And I'm with you. I hope everybody still realizes this is very real and could still get very scary. And let's not start forming mosh pits and having concerts quite yet.
And it's amazing when you see some of the photos of the nightclubs that are open. There was the Kid Rock Club in Nashville, I think it was, and how many people were there. And the knee-jerk reaction from the Corona truthers is, well, nobody said any of that when the protests were happening. Well, first of all, the protest is an organic reaction to a societal injustice that has been hiding in plain sight for years, and it reached a boiling point with George Floyd. And a lot of the protesters I see are wearing masks. I didn't see a single mask in that photo from the Kid Rock Club the other night. So there's a lot of people engaging in unsafe behavior, getting pressed together in confined spaces without masks. It's very different. And it's a deliberate, premeditated effort to go out and have a good time. It's not people lashing out in anger over things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. There's a big difference between protest gatherings and let's go hang out at this club gatherings. So we'll see. We'll see how will the numbers go up? Will they not go up over the next few weeks? One other point to make on this before we go. Two quick ones. One, I mentioned 4 players have tested positive, 2 from the Cowboys, 2 from the Texans. One of the players from the Texans was at George Floyd's funeral last week. So, and there were like 25 players and representatives of the Texans there. So,
wow,
we're going to wait and see whether or not anybody else ends up testing positive out of that event. And also, the plan right now for NFL players is to be tested 2 or 3 times a week. I know that it's not practical to test more often than that. We need to get to the point where there's a test, a reliable, easy, quick, safe test that involves a swab of the mouth or a prick of the finger, and it tells you immediately whether or not you have it. And I think the more often you're tested in that simple, easy way, the better off everyone's going to be. Because if I got tested yesterday, I was negative, and I don't get tested today, and I'm not getting tested until tomorrow, there's a chance I'm currently positive. I think if I know it today, everyone is better off, Chris. So I hope we can get to that point. I thought we were going to get to that point by August or September, and maybe we will, but I'm not real comfortable with 2 or 3 tests a week. I want to get to the point where they can do reliable testing every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the safest way. Yeah, I mean, there's just too much wiggle room between, 2 and 3 tests a week. There's just, you're going to have players who are going to, the chances are with over 2,000 players and things like that, somebody's going to come across somebody that's, got the virus. And that's where it's scary. And again, this is where I'm worried as far as I just wish we had more fail-safe plans right now. I don't know. Maybe they need to keep a 90-man roster this year in the NFL. Maybe every team needs 90 players, and maybe that's the way they do it. They just got to have a bunch of players who are like on the quarantine practice squad, and that's how they go from there. But if you're only testing 2 to 3 times a week, there's just no freaking way that teams are not going to get this sickness and be overrun by it. And we just, I don't know. Are we going to have the resources to back it up, have enough players, and make it all work? I don't know.
And again, we very much want there to be football season. If we didn't, we would sit back and keep our mouths shut and let nature take its course, because the manner in which nature is taking its course right now for me is very alarming. That's why we're speaking. That's why we're putting these ideas out there. We are hoping and praying that the NFL specifically and society more generally will do the things necessary to allow football season to happen. And if you save 100,000 lives or so in the process, that's pretty damn good too. So we all need to wake up again. If we were ever awake and maybe stop paying attention, or if we were never awake, we need to pay attention to the things that need to be done. The Surgeon General, a person who was appointed into the job by the president, said over the weekend, wearing a mask is not an infringement on your freedom. It actually allows you to better enjoy your freedom, because the more you wear the mask, the more likely you are to go out and do things, because the less likely society is to shut down again. It's really not that. It's not that hard, people. It really isn't that hard to understand.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.